Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar with Ikon Institute of Australia on our School of Education. I appreciate everyone coming today. We'll just wait a few minutes for any late arrivals. So get comfortable and we'll start in around 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we'll get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the webinar of Ikon Institute of Australia, Your Future in Education for our School of Education. If you work in the sector, whether you're Cert 3 qualified, have a diploma, or whether you're looking to move into the sector, this is the webinar for you. I'll first do some introductions. My name is Michael Hinken. I'm a course advisor here at Ikon. We're also joined by Dr. Damien Spencer. He is our Dean and Acting Head of School for the School of Education. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Damien, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Yes, my name's Dr. Damien Spencer. I'm currently the Dean of Ikon. Been in the organisation for a couple of years now, based at the Melbourne campus, and got an extensive history in education, a range of different years, and very proud to currently be heading up the School of Education, of which at the moment is mostly early childhood. So we'll be very happy to talk to you over the next half an hour about our early childhood offerings.
Thank you very much, Damien. Like Damien mentioned, he'll be talking to you for the main part of this presentation, but we're also joined by Eden Pavlovsky, who is another course advisor here at Ikon. You may have talked to her on the phone or via email, but thank you for joining us too, Eden. If we'd like to move to the next slide, Eden will be helping us on the chat box today. So if you have any questions during today's webinar about anything we've talked about or anything that comes to mind, please put them into the chat box. Eden will answer them throughout the webinar, and hopefully I can answer some towards the end of the webinar too, where we'll have some time for some live Q&As. These questions could be on admissions requirements, content of the course, student life, flexibility of the class. So yeah, please put those into the chat box if you have any. Anyway, I think we'll get started. I'll pass back over to Damien to talk about the course overview. Thank you very much, Damien.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, so I guess here at Icon Institute, we're really keen to provide as many different opportunities as possible to fulfill the requirements of your particular needs in early childhood. So you can see the table on your screen at the moment as all of our different offerings. So maybe I'll spend quite a few minutes just going through this table. I guess the first difference is whether you're interested in becoming an early childhood educator or an early childhood teacher. And if you're interested in being an ECE, the educator, then the diploma is right for you. But if you're wanting to become a teacher, you will need initial teacher qualification, which is the bachelor or the master's. The bottom line on this table is the Master of Education. We will keep it on the table, but we aren't currently accepting applications for this course. So if the bottom line, the Master of Education, interests you, perhaps do reach out to us and we can provide you some more information about that one. But I'm assuming most of you will be interested in the first four offerings, so let me talk through them. The diploma's 2 years, the bachelor's 4, and the Master of Teaching is 2. So I guess that's the first question: is how long are you interested in studying for? And that will be your first differentiator, which course you're interested based on how long you want to study for. We have 4 campuses at Icon, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Adelaide, but we also provide an online option as well. It's not fully self-paced. You will have to attend what we call synchronous classes, so live classes where you can interact with your lecturer. We try and make them in the evenings. That's not always possible. We some of them might be during the day, but come and have a chat to us about what the timetable will look like. But most of those online offerings will require attendance at classes. Um, but equally, if you're welcome, if you'd like to study on campus, you're welcome to take up that option as well. Basically, the difference between the four courses is what the outcome is, and there's a slide later where we can talk about what the outcomes are, but have a good think about what it is you're wanting to study for. Are you wanting to be a room leader? Are you wanting just a job in early childhood? Perhaps you want to be a centre director one day. Perhaps like me, you want to one day be an academic and you want to be able to teach the teachers. So have a think about what it is you want to get out of your course, and that will really decide which of these offerings is right for you. Maybe I can talk a little bit about that third line, the Bachelor of Early Childhood Education Accelerated Pathway. This is a fairly unique offering that we have at Ikon. Goes for 2 years. Basically, what we're going to do is give you 16 subjects credit in the Bachelor. So you can see the line 2, Bachelor of Early Childhood Education, 4 years, 32 subjects. But if you already have a diploma and you're working in the industry, we will give you 2 years credit, hence the accelerated part of the title. So you can get through the Bachelor in just 2 years. You have to be a domestic student, so in other words, not an international student to take up this offering. And as I mentioned, you have to be currently working um, in the sector and have an ASIQA recognised diploma. It's a really good way to transition if you are currently an ECE and you want to become an ECT. 2 years full time, you'll be able to make that transition. All of our courses have placement, and that's what the last column explains. It really depends on a number of factors how long the placements have to be, but it's something we really pride ourselves in. We can we can teach you in the classroom out of a textbook for as long as we want, but nothing beats that experience of being in an early childhood setting, working with the children, gaining those skills and application of those skills in the real world. So you will have to take some placement. We'll help you out. We'll most likely find a placement for you. If you already are working in a centre, you're more than welcome to discuss whether that centre is an appropriate place to complete the placement. But you can see on that final column all the different timelines. So if you're interested in the diploma, it will be 35 days of placement, the bachelor 80 days, the accelerated path 60, although we're currently in negotiation to actually change that to 80 as well, just to make sure you really get the maximum placement opportunities in that course. Masters is only 60. So these rules are not set by us, they're set by the government. But I think they're really good rules and really good length of time that you can spend in an early childhood setting. It, which early childhood setting you work in during these placement times will depend. It could be a family daycare, could be an early childhood centre, could be a kindergarten. And there's some certain rules about having to spend some time with the 0 to 2 year old toddlers and infants and spend some time with those 3 to 5 years. It's all about children up to formal schooling. So if you're perhaps more interested in being a primary school teacher, unfortunately, I'd probably say these aren't the courses for you, but anyone interested in anything up to formal schooling. So I know in Victoria that means up to prep. So early childhood in kindergarten. Those names change depending on what state you're in. Sometimes it's called preschool, sometimes it's called kinder. So check in your state. But anything up to the formal schooling age is what our courses are really there for. Um, they're all a sequel qualified, except for that last line, apart from the Master of Education, which, as I said, we're not currently accepting applications, but come and chat to us if that interests you. All the rest are a sequel qualified, which means that the peak body, the professional body that's run by the government, has signed off that these courses meet the standards required that you can come out and work. Depending on what state you live in, there are some other requirements, especially for the bachelor and masters. If you want to become a teacher, you will need to seek initial teacher registration through your state body. It could be NISA, could be VIT, etc. But finishing this qualification is enough to be able to get you qualified to become that teacher. I think on that note, I'll hand back to you, Michael, to talk about scholarships, and then I can talk more about the way we deliver our courses.
Thank you, Damien. Yeah, so I'll run through the domestic student scholarships. Now, it is important to note that these are for domestic students only. So, as Damien mentioned, that's effectively anyone who's not an international student on a subclass 500 visa. We have some great scholarships on offer at the moment within the School of Education. And again, it is important to note that these are scholarships that remain for the remainder of 2026. So for us, that intake is the last intake, which is it's just happening next month. It's in September. So although these scholarships may stay for trimester one in 2027, we can't guarantee it. But yeah, I'll move through them. So firstly, we have the Foundation Scholarship, which is a 15% scholarship for the Master of Education. And then the Career Builder Scholarship. So this is for a Master of Teaching, which is 10%. But you must be accepted onto the program for trimester three. And then an amazing scholarship opportunity for the Bachelor of Early Childhood Education is the Domestic Access Scholarship of 50%. So yeah, that's an amazing opportunity to really study a program at a really discounted rate. And I must add as well that that 50% covers the accelerated Becky as well. So as part of the accelerated Becky, you're also given credit for 16 subjects of the 32 subjects of the Bachelor of Early Childhood Education. So effectively that puts your tuition fees in half already. And then on top of that, you would be eligible for the 50% domestic access scholarship. So yeah, it represents an amazing opportunity. We also have an alumni scholarship. So if you've ever done a course with Ikon Institute of Australia, whether that could be a diploma and then you left, or it could be in any of our other schools or course offerings, you'd be eligible for a 20% scholarship. In order to get these scholarships, you don't have to do anything. You'd have a conversation with our course advisor. They would tell you that you are eligible for this one or that one. You don't have to do any sort of extra essay or interview or anything like that. It will be added automatically to your letter of offer if you are accepted onto one of our programs. So yeah, that's the scholarships that are on offer for the School of Education for the remainder of 2026. Thanks so much. I'll pass that back over to you, Damien.
And maybe I can talk about our delivery modes. And as I said at the start, we're really keen to provide as many different opportunities that suit your circumstances. So maybe I can talk through all the different delivery modes that we have, and hopefully there's one that applies to you. Um, Now, this slide says Sydney and Melbourne CBD locations, but what it probably should say Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and Brisbane CBD locations. And I'm still currently sitting on the Melbourne campus right now to deliver this webinar, and there's some really good resources that we provide. It's something that we pride ourselves in, is to ensure that our campuses are well stocked with material, with consumables, with therapeutic settings, with relevant resources. So we've set up some of our classrooms to sort of mimic an early childhood setting. I was in the Brisbane campus last week, and they've set up a whole corner of one room to almost look like the entrance of a early childhood centre. So you get that feeling as you walk in the classroom. This is probably what it would look like when you're entering an early childhood centre. And those studying online are more than welcome to come and visit our campus at any time and make use of all of those resources. Right next to me, I've got a robot. I've got a robot bee. This is one of the examples of the resources we have. This is what we use in our subject, science, technology, teaching curriculum. So you might think, well, how can you teach a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old about science and physics? But you can use a bee like this that has little programmable buttons and teach them the very basics of programming. So then when they enter school and they're sort of familiar with the digital environment. So Yeah, really good resources, really good campuses that can facilitate learning for students that want that. But maybe you say, no, I'm working full time, or maybe my circumstances, my location mean I want to be able to study remote. So international students don't have that option. As part of the government rules, you have to be present in class, but Australian students can complete most of your studies online. I say most because there may be times when you need to go to a location, and the most obvious of those is placement. So regardless or not, you can't do your placements online. They have to be done in person at a location. And there might be a subject here and there where we say, please come for an intensive or a short duration on campus. But the majority of your studies as an Australian student can be done online. But as I mentioned before, they will require live classes. So you will have to log in at a certain time, put on your headphones, engage with the class. I think that's actually a good way to learn. Sometimes when you try and do everything by yourself, isolated, in your bedroom at home, it can be a bit isolating. It's sometimes nice once a week to meet up with a class, learn from the teacher, but also learn from your fellow students as well, learn from your peers, talk about what's working, what are you struggling with, work through the assessments together. But nevertheless, it is important to point out this remote model that we have. And then the third way is blended, which, as the name suggests, is a blend of being on campus and being remote. Um, and some subjects have a combination of both. And we can't be very specific at this point. You probably want to know, well, what subjects are remote and what subjects blended, but it kind of changes per year, and it might even change what campus you're on. So if any of those options interest you, come and talk to us, and we can explain for your particular circumstances what mode of study will be right for you. If I move on to talk about career opportunities, so I mentioned at the start, this is probably the number one thing that you should probably think about is I'd love to study, but why? Why am I studying? What is it that I want at the end of this? So have a think about this. What is it you want to get out at the end? If you'd like to be an educator, and maybe I'm making an assumption that we know the difference between an educator and a teacher, so maybe I should take a minute to explain what that difference is. An educator is the person who works in the room, we say on the floor with the children. They're the ones that implement the curriculum. They're the ones that do the play-based learning. They're the ones that really look after the children on a day-to-day basis. The early childhood teacher also does the same. They're often on the floor. They're often working with the children, but they also have higher level responsibilities as well. They write the curriculum. They write the programs. They set the daily schedule. They have to do a lot of the reporting aspects, so there is an administrative side to it as well. Um, but obviously, with that higher responsibilities also comes a higher level of pay. So that's kind of the difference between an educator, who are the workforce, the frontline workforce, and the teacher that has more of that higher level responsibility. Um, Sometimes a room leader can be both. Typically, a room leader is a teacher, but not always. You can be an educator and a room leader as well. And then you get up to the other positions in a centre, like the centre director, the 2IC, the ones that probably more so than often sit in the office and run the centre. Sometimes they're business people. Sometimes they're early childhood teachers who have made their way up into those positions. So if you're interested in being an educator, you want to get into the field, you want to spend time with the children, um, diploma would be perfect for you. If you're more interested in those room leader roles, or the EL is an Australian position in early childhood centres where they're more of that leader position, then the bachelor or the masters would be right for you. Now, the bachelor and master has an interesting dynamic there where both of them lead to initial teacher registration. So in some ways, the outcome from the bachelor and the outcome from the masters is the same. So have a think which one might be right for you, and have a look at what your previous qualifications are, how long you want to study for, what level you want to study. There is an expectation that a master's graduate probably has a um, higher level, we call it a higher order thinking level than a bachelor. You can kind of understand that at a master's level, there's a qualification difference. The assignments are a little bit more in depth. We require a little bit more critical analysis, but nevertheless, the outcome is still being a teacher at the end of the day. So have a think about which one might be right for you, the bachelor or the master, both of them ending in being a teacher. Now, the last one, which I said, we don't currently accept applications, but you're more than welcome to reach out to us if you're interested in the Master of Educational Leadership. Is more for people that are already in the industry, perhaps they're already teachers and they just they want to become better. They want to learn more about the theory behind education. But I will point out one thing on this slide is that those last lines in that last box, higher education, academia, educational research positions, I would probably take those words and also put them into the middle box as well. So maybe this has nothing to do with you, but maybe you do want to one day join a university, join an institute like Ikon, be a teacher of the teachers. Maybe that's something that interests you and you want to go into higher education yourself. In that case, I would say the Master of Teaching might be right for you as well. We regularly employ as our teachers people that have a Master of Teaching and people that have been in the industry as well. You might have heard the phrase academics, but we like to call them pracademics, so that they're practical academics. They've been working in early childhood centres. They fully understand the practicalities, the pragmatics, the day-to-day logistics, but they've also got that theoretical academic understanding as well. So if that interests you, have a think about the Master of Teaching as well. And as that little paragraph at the bottom says, just remember it's not always childcare centres. There's all sorts of different work locations that you can be employed in: preschools, early childhood centres, occasional care, after school care, inclusion and educational support, playgroup facilitators. So it's anyone involved in dealing with children up to that formal schooling age. Something else that Icon really prides themselves on is that out of classroom care. So we've got really good qualified lecturers who are willing to give you their all in teaching you the theory and the content and all the things that come with being an early childhood professional. But we also surround you with a lot of extra support, and I think this is really important. So we've got a whole team of course advisors, and I wouldn't use it so much case manage, but they do track you and they go along the journey with you and be able to provide that personalized course advice. Whenever you have any questions, they can be able to help you. I would say, especially in the first few months, it's always really hard. Uh, we call it transition. So you've transitioned to higher ed. Maybe you've done higher ed before, maybe you haven't. Maybe it's been 10 years since your last higher ed experience. The course advisors are really there to help you through that transition period. Once you're studying with us, the student experience team, we've got about a 30 to 40 strong student experience team that really answers all your questions on a day-to-day basis. We've got things like special consideration. You got an assignment due on the Sunday, you get sick on the Thursday. So you can reach out to the student experience team, say, I'm really not going to make the deadline. What can I do? They'll be able to help you through that process. And on and on and on. Whatever situation you find yourself in, the student experience team will be able to be there and help you. I've talked about the facilities, the resources, well-stocked campuses, and always modernising. Even just early this week, we've received a shipment of what we call simulation babies. For those who've done first aid, you know the resuscitation dolls. They're almost a bit like that. They're a baby that's a robot, and you can practice in a very safe environment on a child that's a simulated robot and learn all the things you need to do before we actually give you into the placement subjects where you've got to deal with the children in reality. So we've made a big investment in these simulation babies as a way of preparing you and supporting you before you go into placement. And then the online resources as well. We're very, very proud of our investment into online resources. So I think the days are gone where institutes and universities have physical libraries full of shelves of books. We still have a few books around, but mostly they're picture books. Yeah, the very hungry caterpillar there. We're going on a bear hunt. The actual textbooks, they're now online. And they're really good because you can access them at any time of the day. You don't have to worry about there only being two copies in the library and you got to run to the library to get the last copy. They're all online. They're all downloadable, or at least readable online. And also online is a whole series of resources. So you might say, well, I'm really not sure if I'm allowed to use artificial intelligence for this assignment. So we have a whole series of modules and workshops and support material online to help you with your study. Maybe you say, I'm okay with study, but I'm really not that good at time management. Well, sometimes I feel the same way. So we've got some modules online that just help you think about how you might manage your time throughout the week. So academic resources, even some one-on-one support. So you can log in, join a Zoom or a Teams meeting, talk to someone online and really say, this is what I'm struggling with. I haven't written an essay for 10 years. I really don't know how to structure a paragraph. We'll give you that academic support as well as those resources that are already uploaded online and the extensive, yeah, ebooks, textbooks, and journals that you can access at any time. So yeah, so a whole lot of support both inside the classroom and outside. Michael might have more to say about this slide, but I can just say my comments here about you probably thinking, well, Australia's got a wide range of universities and institutes of higher education. Why Icon? Why would I come and study at Icon? So we've just put up a few, I guess, key selling points, if you want to, for want of a better phrase. Why is Icon the place to study? We are one of the leading institutes. We probably have one of the biggest student cohorts, although maybe the name's familiar to you, maybe the name's not familiar to you, but we are one of the leading institutes, one of the biggest institutes. It's by far our biggest school, early childhood education, and there's not too many schools or institutes around Australia that are as big in early childhood as Icon. I did mention this earlier. We do have these expert academics or pracademics with many years of industry experience. It's my job as dean to hire new staff, and it's one of the main things I look for is how good a teacher are you? Tell me about your teaching experience. What's your teaching philosophy? How do you best get information and skills across to students? But equally, do you understand the industry yourself? Have you spent years yourself, in this case, in early childhood? What sort of practical experience can you bring to the classroom as well? And not just the head knowledge, I think it's also a good way for lecturers and academics to empathize with the students. You're no doubt having to balance a lot of things. I really want to study, but I'm working full time. I'm not really sure how I can manage it all. A lot of our academics are facing the exact same thing. Perhaps some of them are still working in the early childhood industry and they're lecturing with us at the same time. And I think that's a real strength. It really gives them that empathy for the students. We've got a whole work placement team who have made connections. We've got 500 there. Maybe this slide needs some updating because I have a feeling it's over 800, 900 now industry partners. We've spent a lot of time reaching out to a lot of early childhood centres, schools, kindergartens, and really made those connections. And high level of graduate employment. The Australian government always surveys student or graduates from institutions like us, and then they publish the data. So you're welcome to jump on the government website and check this out for yourself. But our students have very high levels of graduate employment. Michael, you might have more to add to this slide.
Yes. Well, the two things that I would add would be probably our flexibility. Maybe if you go to some of the larger universities, they don't offer the flexibility, particularly with domestic students. We know many of you, particularly within the early childhood sector, work full time. You're working during the day and are unable to go to classes or study during the day. So we pride ourselves on that flexibility where we offer classes in the evenings and contact hours in the evenings. As well as that, some of the support that Damien mentioned in the previous slide, from first contact when you come through to either Eden, myself, or one of my other colleagues who are course advisors, all the way through to graduation where you you touch many of our different departments within the organisation, from student experience to your academic teams. We do pride ourselves on that support. So yeah, I think that's probably what makes Ikon special. Yeah. Moving on, I think, are you happy with that slide too, Damien? Yeah, thank you so much for walking us through that. I will take us on to the Q&A session now. I know maybe a few of you are a little bit shy to ask some questions. I know, looking at the Q&A box, a couple of the questions were on the practical placement, and I know that's something that many domestic students get quite worried about with their practical placement. Will they be able to find one? Can they do them at their own centre? And yeah, it's something that we take very seriously at Ikon. We have a large placement team of around about 12 staff members now, and as Damien mentioned, we have close to 1,000 industry partners, or hopefully we'll reach that 1,000 number at some point. There was a question about what placement support is available for regional students, as I am in TAS. Yeah, so as Eden mentioned in her answer, we'll do our best to support you in finding a placement as close to home as possible. And I know that we do have some industry partners in Tasmania. But if there's no more questions, please, we'll move on now to the next slide. So I think some key dates is probably what the next steps are. So we're coming up to trimester 3, which is the last trimester and intake of 2026. The application deadline, so the deadline date for trimester 3 is actually the 28th of August 2026. So I think that's around 3 weeks away. Orientation week is a week, about 10 days after that. So the 7th of September is when you would have your orientation session. So that's getting to know the different portals we have here at Ikon, accessing your timetable, accessing all the learning resource materials that are online, and making sure you're comfortable with all the different portals we have at Ikon. And then the week after that, which is the 14th of September 2026, is when teaching starts. So just over a month away until teaching starts. In order to apply, you can go on our website and directly apply from there, but I would always advise to get in touch with one of our course advisors. That way they can answer any of your questions that are more tailored to you and your situation. They can advise you on potentially what course is best for you. They can give you some tips on applying. And yeah, it's always best to have a conversation with those first. With the trimester deadline fast approaching in 3 weeks, I would advise you to apply as soon as possible, really. Class sizes are on a first come, first served basis in terms of timetabling, so classes do get full. So the earlier you apply, the more choice you'll have in your timetable, and it kind of avoids any last minute application hiccups. Any tips and tricks that I might have for applying is, when you do apply, particularly within the School of Education, you may need to provide, maybe you've done a Cert 3 or a diploma and you're applying to do our accelerated bachelor. Please have your diploma transcript and certificate ready, or your Cert 3 transcript and certificate. There'll also be, particularly for the Bachelor of Early Childhood Education, a teaching statement that you'd need to fill out, which involves 3 questions about your skills and your desires to become an early childhood teacher. So get thinking about kind of the skills that you've learned in your time in the industry. But yeah, that's it for the webinar today. We appreciate you coming. We hope you've enjoyed it and you've learned a lot. Please feel free to reach out to us at ikon.edu.au/apply, where you'll come through to one of our course advisors. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you on campus one day soon.